share my screen.
All right, I think it's everybody should be added so far. Chris, do you want to put up the slide?
Yep.
Sorry. All right, well, hello everyone, and welcome to Feedly Threat Intelligence first webinar. That's right, I don't think we've ever held a webinar before, so we're really excited to have you. We thought this is a really great feature and one to start the webinars on. My name is Shawn Jaques. I'm head of product marketing here at Feedly, and I'll just be the host. I'm not the expert here. I've got a couple of great experts, Dave Johnson and Chris Pickard, who will be leading us in. This webinar is about the Feedly Vulnerability Dashboard. So we'll get started real quickly. One thing I want to say is this is a totally live webinar. We're not pre-recorded, so you guys can put any questions that you have into the Q&A. And when you do, then we'll try to jump in and answer them. We might answer them in line, just as a text response, or we might answer them live. It depends on the question and the relevance to the rest of the audience and the timing of everything. So please do those. We'll try to make this as interactive as possible. And the other thing I'll get into here is let Dave introduce himself. So Dave, you want to start?
Hello. Yeah. Hi, nice to meet everyone, even though I can't see you or anybody, but I'm a senior threat intel advisor at Feedly. I've been here almost 2 years. I was a former Feedly customer, and I was with the FBI for about 7.5 years, and then private sector for another 7 years doing incident response and threat intel. So happy to be here and talking about the vulnerability dashboard. Chris.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris. I'm product manager at Feedly. I've been with Feedly for almost 3 years now. First as a threat intelligence advisor, and then more recently as I joined the product team, where I get to work on new features like the one we're about to show you. And yeah, before that, I worked in threat intelligence for an MSSP and was a Feedly customer.
Awesome. So we know a little bit about your work background. Just one thing we like to play here is finish the sentence. So I'll give you a couple quick questions. You guys just respond to the first thought, the best thought that pops into your head. So a podcast, TV show, or movie that you're really into right now. Dave?
Formula One, Drive to Survive.
Awesome. Chris, what's your podcast, TV show, or movie that you're into right now?
Definitely Slow Horses. It's very silly and British. It's quite funny.
And you are British, so there you go. I'm into a running podcast called Some Work All Play. It's about trail running. It's pretty cool. It's actually filmed by people it's done by people in the area that I live right now. One more quick one. So if you guys were to think about all the different shows that they've seen about hackers and TV, whether it's TVs or movies, Dave, what's your favorite movie about hacking or TV show?
Favorite bad? Probably Swordfish with the classic Swordfish.
Yeah, it's classic. Chris?
I was really into Mr. Robot. Yeah, it's really cool.
I really like Mr. Robot, and that's a good one. Okay, so without any further ado, well, actually, I'm going to give a little bit more ado here. Chris, do you want to move to the next slide?
Yeah, thanks.
So for those of you who don't know about Feedly, indulge me for about 30 seconds while I plug Feedly. So Feedly Threat Intelligence has been around for about 4 years. We started using AI long before AI was, or ChatGPT and things like that started to become popular. But Feedly allows you to collect, analyze, and share actionable intelligence with your team and your stakeholders. And one of the ways we do this is we look across really millions of open source intelligence sources, things like news outlets and security blogs and vulnerability databases, and we pull in all that information and then we correlate it. So we scan through those documents. We kind of understand the relationships between IOCs and threat actors and DTPs and malware, and then we allow you to we provide a summary of that information, and we allow you to analyze that and share it really easily through either your ticketing system, your SIM, your TIP, your SOAR, whether it's through messaging or through newsletters. So if you haven't had an experience with Feedly for threat intelligence or Feedly Threat Intelligence, the enterprise product, I know a lot of you probably know about Feedly as a newsreader, but if you haven't tried the full product, I encourage you to go out and give it a trial. We offer a free trial. Just fill in some information and you get started automatically without talking to anybody. You can get a 7-day trial. So that's at feedly.com/threat-intelligence, and we'll provide links at the end. So again, live webinar. We encourage you to get your questions in. And Dave, do you want to take the next?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
So part of what we're trying to do with this whole webinar is sort of present like some problems that are faced by a lot of different vulnerability and CTI teams, and kind of present our solution to it, which is the vulnerability dashboard. And we've heard from a lot of customers and even from personal experience working with vulnerability teams that there's a lot of heartache over missed critical vulnerabilities. It's a constant rush to always respond to them and to complete the picture. And so there's a lot of stress on teams. And usually it comes down to being timely and putting together all the pieces of the puzzle into something comprehensive, but then also making it real time. And with all these things, we try to address this with the vulnerability dashboard. Chris, do you have anything to add on that?
Right. Yeah, it's just something, again, back to own experience as well, is that kind of that fear of missing something critical, kind of like every day, like, oh, am I going to miss something today? And then we're hearing that a lot from customers as well as like the kind of the general overwhelm of like all of the vendor advisories, the news sources to follow. And so yeah, that's kind of how what made us want to kind of focus on this topic.
And yeah, actually, as a customer before, the reason that we got Feedly is because some of our other tools weren't picking up on the newest reports quick enough, and we needed something that was a little bit more real time. So that's why Feedly is cool, in that we're pulling stuff more or less real time. We constantly are scraping, different RSS feeds and different types of unique security content.
That's cool. And yeah, I guess to try and address some of those pain points that we're here, some of those problems, we created the vulnerability dashboard, and some of the key elements of that that we wanted to capture as much as possible in terms of sources, and so but make sure they were all in one place. And so the dashboard will collect like thousands of OSINT sources. It's updated in almost real time. And so that was a big part of what we wanted to do with the dashboard. But also we wanted to make it customizable. So you could personalize it based on your tech stack, or just based on the needs of your organization and your risk criteria. We wanted there to also be like some actionable insights throughout the dashboard. So whether that's like learning about threat actors that are exploiting a specific CVE, or there's a proof of concept that's been released out there, and you need to know about that. You'll be able to discover that within the dashboard. And also we wanted to make it shareable, or the data shareable. So there's API access for the dashboard, so you can integrate with your own tools as well. So they're kind of like some of the key elements.
And I think sorry, I wanted to just jump in, and I think one of the most important things is that we recognize that everyone has their own risk criteria for how they evaluate vulnerabilities and when they escalate it. So that's what we're trying to solve here, is everyone's able to kind of build their own personal risk profile depending on what their organization prioritizes.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna move on to the demo now of the dashboard, and then Dave will follow up on that with some of the popular use cases that we've seen as well. So yeah, here's the dashboard. I'm going to start from the top and work my way down. And so one of the first things you'll notice is we have this kind of date range picker. And so this is useful if, like, say, for example, you want to find new vulnerabilities as soon as they're released, you can use the 24-hour preset here. Or if you've got that monthly report coming up or the quarterly report, something you can use the custom range here as well. And once you've set that, you can then start applying a bunch of filters. So this is where we wanted to make it customizable. We wanted to add some advanced filtering here. So it uses Boolean logic in a way. So we have the and, or not filter operators here. If I click on and, you will see basically a menu of filters appear here. So if you want to find new vulnerabilities, you can do that. You can look for exploited, proof of concept, or even vulnerabilities that have recently been added to CISA KEV, which is known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. Below that, we have kind of some more like granular filters. So this is where you can personalize the dashboard a bit more. And so vendors and products become key here. So you can choose, you can basically search for any vendors or products that you use, or even build lists of vendors and products that you use. So you can reuse them across different saved views of the dashboard or anywhere else in Feedly as well.
Chris?
Then we have the, yep.
You were just hit on a talking about those custom lists of products and vendors. We have 2 questions already about this, so let's just see if we can answer those. So one of them asked about tech stack. Can we put in exact models and or OS versions? And then the second one was kind of related. Can we ingest a list of our SBOM, our asset inventory, otherwise focus on specific versions of libraries or applications they're using in their stack?
So at the moment, with the vendors and products, we've kind of this is all based off of CPE, like the CPE library. So anything that is within the CPE library will be searchable, and you'll be able to filter on it within the dashboard. So you can create lists here. So you can use our custom list feature to build out lists of those vendors and products. In terms of versions, that's something we're going to be adding to the dashboard. So we're working on that now, and we'll be adding that as well. So you can filter on specific versions as well.
Perfect. Thanks. Continue on.
Cool. Yeah, next filters up are kind of the severity type filters. So we have the CVSS score. We also have the CVSS estimate, which is kind of a prediction done by Feedly AI on how severe or how critical this vulnerability a CVE might be. And so I'll show you more about that in a second when I get further down the dashboard. But we also have EPSS, and then even searching for specific threat actors and malware. So yeah, very customizable, lots to kind of play around with in the dashboard here. And once you've set those filters, you'll see these kind of the metrics and the charts update here and the content of the table. And so the reason we included the metrics and chart is we wanted to give like a bit of an overview of your vulnerability landscape in a way, something scannable, something you can just take a glance at and respond to. So you'll see that the total vulnerabilities here, those that have been weaponized, or like have links to malware, and then those that have been exploited in the wild, obviously based on the filters you set. You can click in here and get a view of those CVEs quickly, like directly from here, and learn more. We also have the most effective vendors and products based on your filters. So this could be based on the tech stack that you've added, or just sort of in general, if you have a broader search going on. But again, you can click in here and get an idea of those CVEs. And then we have links to threat actors and malware as well. So yeah, there's quite a good overview here of your kind of the vulnerability landscape. And then below that, we have our vulnerability table. And so this is customizable again. You can, we have a bunch of columns to choose from. You can hide the ones, maybe if you're not interested in them, you can move them around. And so you can kind of scan the results that you want to see first. But yeah, the way I've set mine up at the moment is I want to see the publish date first. I've got the CVE ID here, and then I've got the vendor and product. I mentioned CPE earlier, and so I'm sure a lot of you are aware of like the NVD backlog at the moment, and so that's something we experienced as well when building the dashboard. That a lot of the more recent vulnerabilities didn't have that CPE data available. And so we have kind of trained Feedly AI to detect the vendors and products based on the CVE description and the article content. And so if there is no CPE available, we will extract that ourselves and it will be searchable within the dashboard. Next to that, we have the CVSS estimate. And so this, again, is Feedly AI, will predict the kind of the severity of the CVE, and it will do that. So that's to kind of plug the gap between when a CVE is published and when the official CVSS score is released. There can be a bit of a delay there. So Feedly AI will look at the article, the CVE description and the article content to determine whether it's going to be a high, medium, or low severity. We then have EPSS, patch information, if it's been exploited. Also like a trend graph here with quick access to articles that are referencing the CVE. And then we have like proof of concept, threat actors, malware, and vulnerability scanners. So this kind of shows if the CVE can be detected by Nessus and Qualys or not, if you use the not operator. So you can, maybe reprioritize, carry out some extra actions if that is the case. But yeah, so this is kind of the main dashboard here. But I mentioned earlier that there are additional insights that you can kind of click into. So one of them I'm going to show is the CVE Insights Card. And so the Insights Card kind of is like it shows everything we have about a CVE, and we collect all the information on a CVE, and it's kind of a full view of everything we have. You'll see here we have the standard CVE information, as well as CVSS, EPSS scores. And then we produce a summary here based on the content we've seen within articles. So we'll have a general summary, information about the impact, exploitation details, patch information, and mitigation information. This is all exportable from the card. So if you wanted to use it in your tickets, or if you wanted to reuse it in reports, you can just easily do that. And then below that, we have the CVE timeline. And so basically, when we see a new CVE that becomes available, we'll generate a CVE Insights card like this, and also start the timeline. So you'll basically be able to see when the activity first started around this CVE. And we've created like some key events that occur throughout like the life cycle of a CVE. So you can see when something like the CVE has been exploited in the wild. We'll provide a reference to where we saw that, if a proof of concept has been made available. And yeah, basically we have this list of events that it's tracking, and yeah, it just helps you stay up to date with those CVEs that you're monitoring, and maybe see if an event occurs that you maybe need to, that means you need to like reprioritize something. And then below that, we have a trending graph, which is updated based on the activity we're seeing, and we'll provide links to like threat actor associations, like malware, things like that. And then there's all the other useful information, such as like affected systems, any links to exploits, patches, MITRE ATT&CK. And then we have the article content below as well. So we'll always show the vendor advisory at the top if it's available. And then we have all of the other news articles and chatter as well. So it kind of has everything you need here to learn about a specific CVE. And yeah, the last thing I wanted to mention for the demo here is I mentioned that we want to make it exportable and make it possible to integrate with other tools. So you do have API access to the dashboard, so you can integrate with your own tooling. We have a CSV and PDF export. So if you want to use it in reporting, it's very handy for that. And you can also save multiple views. And so you can save views based on your different use cases. Maybe there's different teams using this dashboard, or maybe you just have different priorities and use cases you want to set up. So yeah, it enables you to save multiple views and check them on a daily, weekly basis whenever you need to. But yeah, I'll hand over to Dave so he can talk more about the use cases.
Sure. I'm just trying to answer some questions in chat. So
yeah, I was going to say before we go there, let's go ahead and address a couple of these questions live. I think we have time. One of the first questions was, what sources of OSINT are you using to feed your data? Chris or Dave?
Yeah, so it's kind of pulling from the OSINT, the open web. So we're pulling from like thousands of different sources. There's no like, I guess, specific sources in general that we're pulling from. It's kind of pulling from, yeah. a
But
ton.
Yeah,
So
it's not just the NVD, right? So it's
no,
like we find stuff in articles, we find stuff in blogs, we find stuff in a lot of different sources that helps feed the collective knowledge that we have about a particular CVE.
right. You can even set up like a manual feed, like or a custom feed. So if there's no RSS feed published for a site, you can actually create that in Feedly too.
Okay, there's another question. Is there a limit to the number of custom lists I can build?
Chris, I always forget this one because in the
yeah,
demo it gets much higher. Um,
well, I forgot what it is.
I forgot what it is too.
It sounds like there probably is a limit, but you just don't know what the number is.
You can put 50 entities into a custom list. That's one limit. So, but the number of custom lists, I can't remember. It might be 20. That's just a hip shot guess.
Okay. Let me see. I think I have another one. Will this pull in common names, CVE common names, for instance, FortiJump, which is the equivalent of CVE 2024 47575.
Yeah, so we've indexed the CVE the CPE library, so it's like human readable, easy to read. So you can just search for a vendor or product, and it will match the CPE based on that.
All right. I'm gonna stop there and Dave cover, and then we'll come back to these questions when we have more time at the end.
Okay, sounds good. We don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to try going through as best I can. So I'll steal the share. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So when you first land in the vulnerability dashboard, we try to give you sort of quick hits, past 7 days. These are the trending articles that you see. And this is sometimes good just to get awareness, something that's manageable, things that are and released in the past 7 days. The thing that's interesting about trending is that we look at sort of like the number of articles reported over time. So within the past 7 days, we're picking up on like spikes of article coverage for certain vulnerabilities. So if you actually go back to the table down here, you'll see there's like these spikes, and that's what we're looking for. So we have basically an algorithm that looks for these spikes in coverage, and this helps kind of combat that CNN effect, where you maybe have top level leadership, they hear about vulnerability, it hits the news, and this kind of helps you stay ahead of that and catch those trends as they emerge. So this is good for CTI teams just right off the bat. But we can make this a little bit more powerful in that instead of just trending, which can surface maybe older vulnerabilities that are talked about, we can try adding new. So anything that's actually new that's reported in the past 7 days, for example. And we're going to go back. Let's try 30 days just to have a better visual. But the cool thing is you can play with the filters as much as you want. You can customize this to whatever your risk criteria is, whatever date range you want. For monthly patching, maybe 30 days is good for your team. So you got new and trending, but that's not enough. You have to have something that's actually critical to actually action. So what you can do is actually create an and then look for CVSS scores. As a basic example, we can go 9 to 10. We can go CVSS 8 to 9 as a starting point. But not all vulnerabilities that are new have a CVSS score. So what Feedly does and what Chris mentioned was that we actually try to predict the severity of vulnerability too. So you can capture that through the CVSS estimate. And we have high, medium, low, or none. So we'll go with high and pick medium. So now we have something that will be a lot more focused on things that are popular, that are brand new, and that are severe. Okay. So this might be good for just general awareness, just for a CTI team who might not do vulnerability management stuff all the time, just as a supplement, just as a double check. So I think that this is a pretty good view for that use case. And then another one, I'll clear this out. You can also save these so that you can just go back to it at any time, which is nice. But I'm going to clear this out. And the other use case I want to focus on is a vulnerability analyst who really just wants to focus on the most actionable stuff that they should focus on. So what we can do is expand the time frame a little bit. And then I want to pull in CISA KEV because I think this is a really good source, because to be included in this list, the vulnerability had to be exploited in the wild. And usually there's some type of attribution to a threat actor and reporting. And also there's also a remediation that's in place. So some type of patch or workaround that's available. So with CISA KEV, you're really focused on stuff that can really action. So I think this is a good one to put in here. To take this a step further, what you could do is also tack on your tech stack, or you could just pick different vendors. We can do Microsoft, Cayman, Microsoft. It's the demo god curse. I can't type. Let's see here. Apple, Google. It's a lot easier once you have a custom list, and they could just plug that in here and you don't have to recreate this, which is nice. So with this one, I think we have a really good, strong showing of things that you should really remediate in your environment. If you need justification to patch something, usually they're like, is it really exploited in the wild, and can we actually patch it? So what's really cool too is that when you do different searches like this, Chris mentioned this before, but you can click on different elements and get the data behind the scenes. And so one thing that we've worked on is having these insight cards for threat actors. So we saw Void Banshee was one, another is Oil Rig. And we have an insight card is what we call it. And this is updated more or less real time. And we have the article coverage here that's shown, all the aliases. And if you want to see what was talked about for that threat actor over time, you can actually see what the trending topics were related to that spike. So there's always data behind the scenes that you have access to. We try not to hide that. We even have a nifty little pew pew map. So we also have the same thing for the CVEs themselves. Chris already covered that, but we also have it for malware. So like this one, even like newer malware variants, things that are not covered very often, you can also see like what's being talked about there, what threat actors are using particular pieces of malware or tools, and a little TTP table that we're using to kind of track the development of that piece of malware. Yeah, so that's it for that use case. So that was kind of a rabbit hole. So you can always pivot and do that additional research and then get back to the original view that you were in. The last use case I've got is sort of like vulnerability intelligence on steroids. And it's like, well, they want to be more proactive than CISA KEV. They want to do different things, be a little bit more forward leaning. So what we could do is not just look for trending, but maybe trending is too exclusive. Maybe you want to catch stuff before it trends. So maybe we want 30 days, the tech stack, and new, like truly new vulnerabilities. And then we want to look for things that have been exploited in the wild. Maybe there's a proof of concept available, and this is looking for all across our intel sources, including GitHub, if there's proof of concept code available. And weaponized, if the vulnerability has been incorporated into malware or a certain tool, that will be looked for too. And we can also take advantage of EPSS scores. EPSS is cool because it looks to see like the probability of a vulnerability being exploited in the next 30 days. So we can take a look at 90 to 100% chance, or, and I won't click through all of them, but just to build this as a sort of an example. We can also look for CVSS estimates. So you can go crazy on this. It's all customizable to your particular risk appetite and what's important to you. Let's see here, medium. And then you can add in the specific CVSS scores. So with this one, I think it's pretty strong. You've got things that aren't necessarily trending, but new and might not have been flagged by the community yet. So this is really like forward-leaning, very proactive. So this is a very different kind of search that might pick up on different things that you might miss out on with the other views. But that's all I had.
Awesome. Dave, sorry if I missed it, but did you show the not patched by chance? I thought
No,
that was
this is a new thing that we did. So that's another thing that we can do too. And what if you want to look for something that maybe is trending and maybe is not patched? So we added this not just to focus in on the very like really sticky, dirty things that vulnerability teams have to drill down on. You could also look for something that is not in maybe Qualys or Nessus in a vulnerability scanner yet. So you can also kind of hyper focus on those edge cases too.
awesome. Thanks. All right. So there are a few unanswered questions. I think there's there's like 8. So one question, I think we've kind of addressed this in different ways, but just once for all, what inventory software management can you interface? Can you import a list of software from those? And if not, can you enter them manually? So I think this is like the custom list creation and how you would do that.
Yeah, there's a custom list creation, but also there's the API option as well. So if you have something you want to integrate with, you can do that. We also plan to build some no-code integrations as well with some of the most popular kind of like vendors out there, toolings out there. So.
All right, the second one, next question is about subscription data. Can you add subscription data sources like ISAC, and others?
There's ways to do that. So not directly sometimes, but sometimes. So if you get an email from a vendor, we can actually take emails and send that to a Feedly email address that forwards that to your account. So that's one way, a unique way to get stuff that might be harder to get through traditional means. So if there's like an email distro, you can add it there. Also, the API can help out too.
This question came up a couple of times in different ways. I've answered it privately, but can we integrate your vulnerability module with our scanners to enrich your vulnerabilities present in our environment with intelligence from Feedly?
Yeah, so we do have some upcoming integrations in that sense with some vulnerability scanners. And so that's the aim of those integrations. It's kind of in the early stages at the moment of working with these other vendors. But yeah, the idea is based on the scans that you perform and the results from those scans, being able to kind of import some of that data into the dashboard.
And until then, I suppose the answer is that you can export the CSV from your vulnerability dashboards, and then I guess you could also use the API to pull out other data about CVEs and pull that into whatever system you're using.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Somebody asked if any chance the CISA KEV category will be rolled into AI feeds as well.
Yeah, I saw this one. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, not directly, but the workaround is to add them as a data source to an AI feed. We didn't cover AI feeds on the call, but yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, the good thing is we have this planning session in a couple of weeks. We're going to be prioritizing a lot of new things for next year, so getting them in now is perfect. All right, this one says, once the vulnerability is customized and saved, can you generate a Slack alert with a new vulnerability that has been discovered that meets that criteria?
At the moment in the dashboard, you can't, but it's one of our most highly requested features is to have some kind of system like that with like Slack and Teams. And so yeah, that's on our roadmap.
And I'm not going to throw the API at everything, but like I'd say 95% of what you see in Feedly is accessible through the API, including the dashboard. So that's not to stop you from creating your own notification thing, but we're recognizing that that's difficult for people to pull off. So we'll try to look into building something like that.
Chris, I think you like this question. Does the CVSS estimate still work if the vulnerability is not categorized by NVD?
Yes, it does. So it will still look at the description of the vulnerability and also any article content that's discussing that vulnerability and base its assessment estimate off that.
Yeah, that's one of the cool advantages. You get that CVSS estimate before you get a CVSS score, so you have some indication of just from the chatter and the content that's out there. Can you share all your customized team feeds? I don't know what else that would mean.
Like in our demo account?
I don't know. Yes, I guess that's.
Oh,
we are like you mean the ones that we just went through? Yeah, so I guess that blog post will help with that. We're releasing a blog post.
I was going to say we have a blog post that we give 8 examples of the threat intelligence. I mean, sorry, the vulnerability dashboard that we're going to be publishing in the next week or so. So we'll get that out, and then you'll see kind of the filters and the results of those different ideas and what they could be used for. So hopefully that will answer your question. All right, guys, that's it. Chris, do you want to throw up those last 2 slides?
Oh, yeah.
So really quickly, for those of you that maybe are on a free program or don't have access to Feedly threat intelligence, sorry, there's an awesome resource called feedly.com/CVE that is used that you can go out there and access. You can type in a CVE and you can see. Chris, can you finish that?
Yeah, of
no,
course.
this is a free resource. So like it's freely accessible. It's sometimes pops up in Google, hopefully for you. But if you just want to see what we're about and see what kinds of data, get a taste of what we have available, you can try to go to this website. And so we cover pretty much, I don't know, like all the trending ones. You can have it by category. So it's a really cool resource if you want to see.
Awesome, thanks. That's the beauty of doing something live. You have your special needs son coming in and asking for something. All right, so last but not least, if you haven't tried Feedly for threat intelligence yet, Feedly threat intelligence, sorry, old habits are hard to break. You can go out to feedly.com/threat-intelligence, and you can click on the button to get started for free. I think, was there also a link posted? I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, yep. So Gabby posted a link to the CVE site, and here's another thing here. Let me quickly post that in case you don't have it in.
Yeah, and there's like there's a 7-day like no hassle trial too that you can get if you don't want to talk to a human being. You want no pressure, so you can also do that, or you can get the full 30-day trial too.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. We will send out a link to the recording after this call. It probably might take a little while. I don't know how quickly we'll get the recording and how quickly it'll be sent out, but within 24 hours, we'll send out a link. And thank you. And we hope to have a few more of these webinars about new feature announcements and maybe about other topics that are of interest to CTI professionals like yourself. So thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to close the webinar.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.